Today we continue on with our NHL GM report card series. We are almost done. This is team 31 out of 32. Today we look at the Dallas Stars and general manager Jim Nill. We'll look at their trades, their signings, and how the team has changed, and grade the work of the GM coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we are one step closer to completing our NHL GM report cards for their off-season work. Today we are continuing our way through the Central Division, and we look at one of the stronger teams from last year, and I suspect will be one of the ones in the top of the division again, the Dallas Stars and general manager Jim Nill. So first we're going to take a look at some trades that they made, take a look at all their signings, and then we'll explore how the team has changed and grade the work of Jim Nill. But first, one of the things I want to touch on is a major unfinished business here for Dallas and Jim Nill, and that's Thomas Harley. As I record this video, Thomas Harley is not signed. Now, of course, I'm recording this video on Sunday, September the 8th. Perhaps the signing will take place before this makes it to YouTube. I believe this is likely going to be posted on tomorrow on Monday, if not Tuesday for sure. So either Monday or Tuesday, depending on when you're watching this. I hope the Harley signing is done, but it's not as of right now. I suspect on a long-term basis, Harley's probably looking for somewhere around a 7x7. Suspicion is it could end up being a shorter term, maybe 3 to 4 year deal in that 4 to 5 range. But either way, he is not signed, and he's a big piece of that team. He's come a long way in the past year or two, and he's certainly somebody who I think will be heavily relied upon on that back end. I mean, we've seen, probably we're probably looking at 3 out of their top 6 defensemen being different this year. So I think having some consistency with, guys like Esa Lindell and Miro Heiskanen is important, and they really need to get him signed. Hopefully he does not miss time or miss camp or miss games, but right now, not done. And that certainly will impact the grade a little bit for Jim Nill, but at the end of the day, he's not the only one. There's lots of long drawn-out RFA negotiations going around the NHL. So first, let's take a look at some of the trades we saw from Dallas this offseason. There was really only 3, and the first one really wasn't anything major, but they traded the signing rights for Chris Tanev to Toronto. They get back a 7th rounder and prospect Max Ellis. So Tanev was acquired by Dallas at the deadline last year. He was interested in maybe staying with Dallas. I know they really wanted to keep him as well, but it wasn't working out based on the contract that Toronto gave Tanev. I don't think anybody else was going to give him that contract. I mean, to do such a long term for somebody of his age and the injuries he's been through is pretty well, not something anybody expected. So, unfortunately, Dallas came to the realization we can't compete with that. He's not coming back. Might as well get what we can for the signing rights. They trade Tanev to the Leafs from Ellis in a 7th. Nothing too major there. Signing rights don't typically return a whole lot of a return. They also made a few other moves to free up roster spots and some cap space. They traded Radek Faksa. He's been somebody that's been in the rumor mill for being moved for the better part of a year or more. Traded him to St. Louis for nothing. Basically, it was a cap dump. Traded him for future considerations. And they also traded former first-rounder and youngster Ty Dellandrea. He gets moved to the San Jose Sharks for a 2025 4th-round pick. Now, Dellandrea was in a situation as well where coming to the end of his rookie contract, needed a new deal. And the problem here is that he hasn't really turned out to be, I don't think, the offensive player that they were hoping for. And some of the younger guys on the team have kind of surpassed him. And based on this, new lineup we're looking at this year, moving guys like Faksa and Dellandrea is just going to allow them to give more of a full-time role to a guy like Maverick Bourque, and to even give more of a role to Logan Stankoven. We saw Stankoven get into some games last year. He's going to be a bigger part of this team coming forward. So it really creates full-time spots for them by moving up these 2 guys. It's as simple as that, and it gives them some space with the Faksa contract especially. Looking at the signings they've made, a lot of these were internal. A few of them were new guys coming in. They re-signed Alex Petrovic, 2 years, a league minimum, 2-way deal. Sam Steele comes back on a 1-year deal, $1.2 million, likely going to be their 4C again. Depth defenseman Kyle Capobianco, 2 years, the league minimum. Cole Lynn, another player who's, at one point back when he was with Vancouver, a lot of people thought he would become a full-timer. It hasn't worked out for him, but he's still grinding away in the minors, trying to get NHL games when he can. Cole Lynn signs 1 year league minimum. Brendan Smith comes over. He last played with the Devils. He's bounced around a lot, but a veteran defenseman who can give you a little bit of grit, block some shots, play in the PK, not afraid to drop the gloves. 1 year, $1 million. Casey DeSmith replaces Scott Wedgwood, and he gets a 3-year deal at $1 million per season. Now, Wedgwood ended up signing for, I think it was 1.5 when he left. So we knew that Wedgwood was looking for more money. They found, in DeSmith, somebody that they were able to get cheaper and longer term. Now, DeSmith is a little bit older as well, but comes with a lot of valuable experience, and it could be somebody that maybe Jake Ottinger can learn from too as well. DeSmith spent a lot of time with the Penguins, had lots of action in the playoffs, got to be in Vancouver last year, so he's seen a lot. Could be somebody that can offer more tutelage, so to speak, to Ottinger than a guy like Wedgwood could. So I understand the fact that they kind of saw an upgrade from a cap perspective at the very least. So I think that's a really good deal. Nils Lundqvist comes back on a 1 year deal at $1.25 million. Again, difficult to say if Nils is going to be in their top 6 defense this year, or he's going to kind of be like that number 7 guy. Again, somebody that I wonder could be moved. Matt Duchene re-signs on another 1 year deal, $3 million. That's really good value for what he gave them last year. Obviously, being bought out in Nashville has allowed him to sign cheaper. But Duchene, great value at $3 million. Ilya Lyubushkin, one of their more prominent signings of the offseason, signs a 3-year deal at $3.25. Of course, they get him, who has finished the year with Toronto after losing Tanev to Toronto. So kind of a bit of a swap there. Matt Dumba comes over as well as a UFA, 2 years at $3.75. I do not like that contract. I think Matt Dumba is grossly overpaid in that sense. There was a point early in Dumba's career when he was looking like he was going to be a real potential prominent offensive puck-moving D. But to me, his game has really tailed off. I think he's overpaid by anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million. I think his contract, instead of $3.75, should have been closer to $2.75, maybe $3. If you look at their depth chart, he's likely going to play third pair minutes, and that's just too much money for that kind of role, and it's too much for what he's going to provide. Like I said, I've said this on numerous videos, the contract projections that I rely upon for a lot of the data I use and reference in these videos is AFP Analytics, and they are very, very accurate with a lot of these contracts, and that's the Dumba one is way too high according to them, and I agree based on what his role is going to be and what I think he can give them. I don't like that one. It's probably the only really UFA deal that they did that I don't like. They also signed Colin Blackwell, 1 year league minimum. Emil Henning signed his 3-year ELC, and they signed Magnus Hellberg, a depth goaltender, likely can be their number 3 and can come up and play games if need be, but he'll have to clear waivers. 1 year league minimum as well. So all in all, most of the signings are pretty good. A lot of them are depth moves, nothing too crazy. I don't mind the Lyubushkin contract. But yeah, that number one, not a fan. So analyzing their additions and subtractions, so who's in, who's out. Coming in, you've got Casey DeSmith, Brendan Smith, Matt Dumba, Ilya Lyubushkin, Colin Blackwell, Magnus Hellberg, so a couple of goaltenders, and 3 defensemen. Their forward group's going to be largely the same with one addition there in Blackwell, who likely plays on their 4th line. Going out, they have the retiring Joe Pavelski, Ryan Suter, who they bought out, who's now that's 2 buyouts for Suter, Craig Smith, Radek Faksa, Yanni Hakanpää, Scott Wedgwood, and Ty Dellandrea are all out as well. So if you look at things that way, for the most part, Hakanpää obviously is clearly rumored to have a lot of issues with his knee. He might be in Toronto as well. It was believed they were signing him, but it's never been finalized. So Dallas apparently was skeptical of bringing him back because of knee issues. So again, we'll see there. And Yeah, and Suter and Pavelski, certainly getting up there. Pavelski was still playing well, but certainly had his lack of production in the playoffs, which was surprising as well. So you're probably looking at a lineup for Dallas. You're looking at a top six of probably Rupe Hintz with Robertson and Johnston. Matt Duchene, perhaps with Seguin and Marchment. Maybe a new version of because Jamie Benn played a lot with guys like Johnston before, and it really helped get him going. I can see Ben being on a third line now with Bork and Stankoven, and this is the way that Daily Faceoff has it lined up under line combos on their website as well, with Sam Steele being on the fourth line center role with Dadonov and Blackwell. Overall, pretty good group. On the back end, if he gets signed, you expect Harley and Heiskanen to be your top pair. Lindell Lyubushkin, probably your second pair with Smith and Dumba. Probably making your third pair with Nils Lundqvist, kind of fighting for that number 7 role. So all in all, big changes on the back end. 3 of their top 6 D are going to be different. Change with one of their goaltenders. The forward group, like I said, largely the same with one small addition on a fourth line. Because it creates an opportunity for Maverick Bork and Logan Stankoven to kind of solidify roles, and that's obviously because of guys like Faxa, Dellandrea out, Pavelski retires, doesn't come back. That's kind of created from that. But obviously, internally, they're going to fill most of that. And I really like their forward group. The back end's pretty good as well. I do have some minor concerns on that third pair, and I think Dumba's overpaid. But overall, this is a very good hockey team. Very good hockey team. So I'm going to give Jim Nill a grade of a B in this case. The fact that Harley's not signed, I obviously would like to see that done. And he overpaid Dumba, but everybody else, I think the contracts that were given out were of good value. The trades they made were decent. Obviously, like I said, Faxa was just a cap dump. They get out of the contract without attaching a sweetener, which is good. It's unfortunate they couldn't retain Tanev. And, of course, it was time for Dellandrea to get a fresh start. So, all in all, I think it's a pretty good offseason for Dallas. I expect them to be near the top or in the top 3 for sure in the Central Division again this year, barring some weird changes that we don't foresee coming. But I think that Nil had a good offseason for the most part. Be curious to see where this Harley contract lands when it's finally done. Let me know what you think on the Dallas Stars offseason, and how would you grade the work of Jim Nill? Let me know in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.